Spring returns in Berlin, and it's looking fine. You know, it's quite interesting, spring. I guess it's the light. It's not just the heat, it's the light, it's the visuals. No longer the gray. Welcome back, Artist Journal, March 19th, 2025, broadcasting from inner space. From the non-space of the mind, my name is Adrian Pocobelli. Charging forward here, as one must. I follow the music that my pen makes on this paper, as I like to say. I'm kind of back. I'm always back to this, you put the stroke down, then you have a dialogue. I have a vague idea how I start these shows, but in reality, I often wonder to myself, I wonder what today's show is going to be about. I have a vague idea, but I don't know what's going to come out. So it's quite interesting. It's an analogous process, and it's not even like a distant analogy. It's analogous to art making. I guess you'd call it performance, broadcasting. You put down a word, and anyway, there I go again. As was it Reagan to Walter Mondale? There he goes again. Okay, so Dr. Doom, we're back. We're back with the Japanese pixel artists. That didn't take long. So last time, I think was it Momo? Deadly Yuka on X. And we kind of went in depth into what was happening. I mean, this was just another head turner. This is her meep. And once again, we have the weird kind of, commercial crossover, so to speak. Like, her meep really, like, artists work with, companies and whatnot. That's not new, but for her meep, it's always kind of a weird, I'll show you what I mean. Like, this is just an example of this. This work, which we're going to look at closer here, I think the translation is cool here, her meep, and referencing this tweet here, and you can see the source image. And it's actually remarkably different. And so referring to Mame Gyorai and 60,000 followers, but there's nothing here or on the website that you see anything to do with her meep. It's almost like her meep has been asked, or maybe her meep is involved, who knows, to basically, hey, can you put an ad together to drum up some excitement with the people that follow you? Or just to create it's almost like an internet ad, is kind of my point here. And it's almost like, whatever the store is, Mama Gyorai, perhaps asking, or again, if her meep's involved, is saying, hey, can you put an image together to drum up some excitement for this Marvel crossover that we're doing? So I'm kind of back to this, but then I go, okay, pretty cool image, isn't it? It looks like Dr. Doom. Clearly it is. As you'll see here, let me just translate this for you. The Mask of Dr. Doom, the King of Latveria. I believe it's Fantastic Four #5, the first appearance. Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, and a noble and proud villain with the mind of a scientist is now available in 1/1 scale from Marvel Legends. It can be displayed or worn. And you know what's kind of funny about this? I'm not one to want to buy a mask of Dr. Doom, but I sure would have liked to be able to buy an edition of this artwork. Interestingly, I'm kind of like, where's the Hermeep? Where's her meep over here? But I suspect it's just like basically kind of like a promo. But what's so interesting about it is, again, we're kind of back to this avant-garde pixel art. Right? I mean, and for many reasons here. First of all, if we look at it the most basically, what we see here is, I would say, a pretty original, for lack of a better term, tracing. I don't love the word tracing because it almost sounds pejorative or negative, but it really is a tracing, and there's nothing wrong with tracing. I remember going to the Academy of Realist Art for a couple of workshops, and I remember asking them, but isn't the projector cheating? A great place, learned oil painting. It takes about 2 weeks to really understand how to do oil painting. Then I'd argue you can kind of go on your own. to be honest. I'm sure you can get advice and whatever. But isn't it cheating to use a projector? And the teacher there, the instructor, kind of chuckled to himself and was like, Adrian, very, the cute question, Adrian. No, that is not cheating. We have Roy Lichtenstein using the projector. We have Warhol, a wonderful tracer, so to speak. So there's nothing wrong with tracing. And look at this. I trace. Look at the interpretation that is going on here. And I'd say the one that really stands out is this kind of star sun that Hermeep has just kind of added on top of the cloak here. Quite interesting. And so there are a few things going on. So first, I guess we'd say from a big picture perspective, nice interpretation within the tracing of the composition. Here, it's a nice image, but it's kind of like nothing to write home about. Here, I mean, look at all of this kind of creative abstraction at the bottom half. It almost looks like a separate kind of section of what I want to call painting. Right? So that's kind of interesting. Here we have unbroken pixels, single pixels. And we also have, I think, Hermeep was experimenting with kind of these, glitch-like effects where you can almost like stretch or drag with other colors. And I think that's what we're seeing with the blue here, interestingly. And then finally, we have another layer, which seems to be, and we have a comment on this from Ed Woods, where I was talking about, these aren't like super high-res pixel art. This isn't super high-res pixel art. It looks like it's kind of mediated through a screen, right? There's kind of a noise element here. There's a film, so to speak, another layer that is mediating this pixel art to us. At least the beginning was pixel art with what looks like a glitch of some kind or some kind of effect where we get the blue and then finally the mediation with this beautiful green, I might add. And it brings up just one other issue, which I've kind of mentioned with Manidal, I think, in the past, which is why aren't we seeing pixel art animation? Like pixel art cartoons, why aren't there pixel art movies? Because if you look at this, and even if you were to simplify this, it's almost like you could start making animations out of basically the video game type, but retro video game imagery, so to speak, like inspired by, weirdly. You could almost imagine excuse me, you could almost imagine, and it's not the greatest example, a kind of King's Quest, but it's actually a video, like an animated series, interestingly. Because again, this was a head turner. And final kind of note on that, and we kind of see it with Manidal as well, which is, in a sense, if you think of Manidal's work, it has you might call it very illustrative. It almost looks like a comic book, but it's done with pixels. You could argue a similar thing is going on here, where you have kind of lines that you'd find in a comic book have been kind of pixelated. And I wonder if that's part of the head turning aspect of this for me, is that contrast and that expectation even, where I see the iconography of a comic book, so me kind of programmed to expect almost illustrative lines, and then being kind of dazzled, so to speak, or confronted with pixels. Like, I think that's what happened in that split second where I went, ooh. And when I saw this, I thought, Dr. Doom, boom, boom, the brain trying to figure it out, and that's pixels. I think that's what happened. So anyways, continues to be interesting, as cool as Hermeep puts it. So we saw this, and so just a little bit more on Hermeep and what Hermeep is up to. Let me see, I may have to adjust to the phone. The internet has not been playing very nice this morning. Let's see what happens here. Okay, beautiful. The left column is the width and the right column is the height. First page, and the printing speed slow, saying there are some issues with reproducing gray tones, but I want to make the most of the texture. So all to say, this is on Hermeep's X account, I think, or it's the gallery that Hermeep is maybe associated with. As you see here, you're going to see all sorts of different kind of use of media as well. We see the stickers here. If you book 10 tickets, so these are maybe tickets, kind of shiny stickers. And here we have, and forgive the internet here, here we have another work, kind of looking like a plant, almost reminds you of Cap'n a little bit, or Figments. This is also super interesting. This is a sculpture from the Kaiboot shop of Hermeep. It is Hermeep. We see the accent aigu, as they say in French. It is Hermeep. The motif of succulence is expressed as dots. It is a piece that has been further 3Dified using ceramics. So what I think we see here is a 3D sculpture of pixel art. I think is what's going on. It is a one-of-a-kind piece. The sharp thorns also look like this when turned into pixels. The refreshing color scheme makes it perfect for a windowsill. So, Hermeep pottery succulence. How much is this? At the risk of confusing our internet here, 22,000 yen. I wish I knew how much that is. Is that $22,000? Should we very quickly check? Yen to dollars. 22,000. Oh, $146. Well, I mean, is that a one-of-one original 3Dified ceramic? It is a one-of-a-kind piece. This is the thing. Like, I'm kind of back to, Hermeep, a super interesting artist, and I guess they had a show. It's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, I don't think Hermeep doesn't tend to make huge series out of their works. Like, I don't think we're going to see Spider-Man, Batman, and a whole bunch of Marvel, whatever, Avengers. We'll probably just see that one. I hope we see more, but kind of does jump around a little bit from a content perspective. We saw that kind of Transformer-looking thing. Then we'll see a house. So anyways, just another super interesting artist there. Pretty reasonable for a sculpture. Here we have Hermeep. Also, this is a picture I made using a sample of small cut pieces of Pineco that were sent to me for testing. Also a test of the airbrush. So you see pixel art being used as a kind of a mask of a certain kind, a kind of decal, a cutout. It was intensified. It was interesting to see how the ink absorbed differently depending on the areas because it was made of a variety of fibers. It doesn't really matter if you paint over it, though. The actual size is about A4, twice as large as this. So this must be A3, or sorry, A2. Or wait, A5. If you don't know, A5, two A5s make an A4. Two A4s, you put the A4 on its side, and then you have an A3, and then A2 will be two A3s together, and A1 is two A2s. So just so you know, I didn't learn that till maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So it's just kind of good to know if you're working with paper. Very interesting. And here's a cassette cover from Masanori Nozawa. I have just received a small amount of cassette versions of my ambient work, Kono and I, released by Helmeepe's. I wonder if I think that's Hermeep. Cassette label, Thank Us, which has been out of stock. So also a music label. So there it is. And just a cool juxtaposition. So just kind of interesting, isn't it? Very interesting artist. Since it's on the topic, since I started last show there with this artist here, who we're going to see, I think Momo, I believe is the name. I thought this was kind of interesting too, because we're seeing Cassern here. Maybe I followed them already, not sure. Game dev, indie game. I just thought this was interesting. Because again, if you look here, deep pixel art, game dev, you're seeing another kind of weird overlap between, like, are they an artist? Are they a video game dev? Are they both? It's probably both. I mean, if you technically look at it, I mean, the art is beautiful. The art is outstanding, actually. And so it's very just interesting. And final point on this, it harkens back to that New York Times article from maybe 3 months ago, if I had to venture a guess, where it was talking about, maybe even 4 months ago, where it was discussing how video game graphics had always had this kind of bias towards higher resolution and better simulation, so to speak, verisimilitude of reality, right? Where it's almost like a movie, where it's almost like you believe the scene, and how there was starting to be a reaction against that towards the 80s and 90s type graphics. There we saw Ed Woods yesterday discussing Doom or Quake. We'll get into that in a second. I don't even know what I feel like I know I've heard of Quake, but are they the same thing? Are they different? I just associate all those kind of first-person shooter games more or less with Doom, at least with that sort of UI. Anyways, I thought this was just kind of interesting because again, it kind of illustrates the point. I mean, look at this. Like, what is this? GB Studio, pixel art, liminal space. I mean, put it this way, and we're going to see this in a completely different context, this notion. But if I went to a contemporary art gallery here in Berlin and I saw this, you know what went through my mind when I just said that was J.G. Ballard first reading William Burroughs, and he said when he first started reading Naked Lunch, he got up and cheered. He literally stood up and cheered, is at least what he said. I believe him. And if I started seeing stuff like this, like I would literally be like cheering. That is what goes through my head, because all of a sudden it's so rich visually. It's like, oh, it's like a video game, but it's kind of like art. It's the pool. You look at the waves in the pool. Isn't it interesting? And I mean, again, just frankly, the hashtags. GB Studio, I guess it's the studio, pixel art, liminal space. Here we see that, like, I mean, again, I'm going to bring up, hopefully next show, I'll remember to bring up the artist I was talking about on Object. But again, there's something really kind of interesting and profound going on here. And it's just kind of crying out to be put on the blockchain. Interesting. Like, and look at this. Like, I'm kind of going off. I've sometimes thought about doing live shows where it's just like surfing the web. Maybe that's what it should be. Like surfing the, digital art with Pocobelli. Maybe I'll do that because it's kind of fun, right? I mean, where are we? 17 minutes. I got to hurry, all right? Where you just explore. Because this is awesome. The Pixel magazine. Now, interesting, Hermeep, I actually was in touch with Hermeep. I reached out to Hermeep, and Hermeep sent me actually a link to the Pixel magazine. So that was interesting. And look at how good it looks. The alchemy of scale. Digital, when you make it this large, you're transfixed. Are you not? And look at everybody just staring at the beauty. Again, an underappreciated element. Like, this is almost all a modern museum, gallery, institute needs to do in order to kind of get people excited. And I feel like instead we're seeing 1970s, photos that are faded out with like a plant in a corner and, Okay, anyways, let's continue. So let's look at the comments here. The Mediation of Images. I love that title. I went to bed thinking that was a good title. Awesome. Waffles. Kujib Shero. Thank you, Poco. Having fun pushing the script to the edge and seeing what happens. So a little bit of confirmation here. Waffles continuing to work with the custom-made tools on the frontiers here. Every day there is some voila moment. And that is incredibly exciting too, isn't it? Again, it's like aesthetic research, which is very motivating. Indeed. Cheers. Awesome to hear from you. Thank you for commenting. Appreciate all your support, Waffles. Delusion Sat. Most underrated channel. Your analysis are brilliant. Thank you. It really, it's such a slow go. I think we just passed 2,000 subscribers, though. We are at 2,000 subscribers, so that is awesome. It's a slow go for 400 episodes. What is that? I guess that's 5 subscribers a show. Maybe that's not terrible. Thank you. Much appreciated. Nicholas Dietrich, thanks for the mention, Adrian. Yet that ArtNet article is a bit weird, isn't it? I guess I'm just happy to be finding texts that touch upon digital art and would like to see more. And and just because Nicholas Dietrich highlights it doesn't mean Nicholas agrees with everything that's said in it, right? I'm thrilled that he posted, and in a sense, I posted it on the show as well. Because I agree with you. It's a kind of a great conversation piece and gets you thinking. And talking about digital art, and again, I would say that article that if you haven't seen last show, we discussed this article on, I think they call it Red Chip Art. I would say that article was 10% right, directionally right, but then again, they just tried to politicize it all, which I thought was just inappropriate. And it's almost like kind of a ghettoization to a certain degree, or a way of kind of splitting. Oh, you're trad art, so you're on this side of the political aisle, or you're in the contemporary art scene. And then if you're in the blockchain scene, you must be on that side of the aisle, this kind of thing. And that I thought was completely just inaccurate, just inaccurate. So anyways, thank you for highlighting that article though, Nicholas. And good editorial instincts there, my friend. Let's look at more comments here. This is on X. Thank you for the support. Retro Manny, great episode as usual. Thought-provoking and great art. Good to see more attention on the zero contract and on-chain minting opportunities on Tezos. Also, I totally understand, let me make this slightly bigger, Absurdity's viewpoint on Rare. It seems there is a constant need to reinvent the wheel. The benefit of this whole Web3 thing for artists is simply the ability to sell their digital art to people who find perceived value of owning it in their digital collection. Well, you pretty much, I think, very accurately described what is happening. There is a perceived value of owning it in your digital collection. There are people that find a perceived value. There might be more creative, gimmicky ways to approach it, but ultimately, this is what will stick, in my opinion. Indeed. And again, I go back to at least the super rare and transient partnership. At least it sounds like they're saying, hey, enough of all of this. I'm hoping. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Again, there were no details, as I mentioned last show, so it's hard to judge. And companies need to double down on making it their key focus and ignore all the bells and whistles that function as short-term noise that never lasts, unless it can make people lots of money. And that is always short-lived. So exactly, like it's always kind of focused on how to make a killing, and really it ends up hurting like 80% of the collectors out there. These kind of pump and dumps, really, which are brought under the guise of being like, oh, we're just trading, but really it's kind of sketchy, often what happens. So yeah, totally agree. And again, as I was saying with super rare, I actually had another idea for super rare, but yeah, I mean, as I was saying last episode, notifications, I mean, really get the social elements for super rare working really well and open the gates, and that could get very interesting. I guess their brand is kind of one of one. So I don't know if it would make sense for them to do additions. Maybe you add additions though. I think it's great that they're kind of re-engaging with and rethinking it over, because in a sense it wasn't working that well. It worked here and there, and I think that's part of what the partnership's about, is kind of trying this out. Let's try some new things. So let's see what they do. Approach, make it easy for artists to mint and sell, understand the collector's need, allow fair discoverable opportunities, artists get out what they put in. On that point, I would say the best development in the area of discoverability has definitely been the simple and effective use case of subject.xyz. And Object really needs to adopt approaches like this. Yeah, like Object's notifications are still buggy. Like if I right-click and open a notification, it resets everything, right? And so I wish they would fix that. And I kind of agree with you. Like, in a sense, what really should happen, I don't know how they would make it work, but really, like, Object just needs to integrate that whole because what is subject? It's like in my opinion, it's a very nice notification center. And in a sense, like, that is, at the heart of social. are like notifications and maybe messaging and being able to communicate. So, and notifications are kind of communication. It's like letting people know without sending a message that there's a new work. Also, someone had to say it, and I'm not going to be that guy. The game was Quake, not Doom. So I have no idea. Continuing on. Thank you for the feature, Pocobelli. If any... wait, sorry. And thank you, Greg. Actually, sometimes I don't get the retweets in here. Actually, often I miss the retweets. And actually, there was a really nice one from, thank you, Greg, Martin Bruce, and Greg actually listed a whole bunch of people here. So thank you for the shout out, Greg. And Martin Bruce had a very, very nice comment here. So thank you. Very encouraging, you know, because it is still a small scene. And also a shout out to Daggy D there for being a serious collector. So beautifully worded from Martin Bruce here. Let's just look at final comments here. Great show, Adrian. Thanks for sharing. Thank you, Ariel. Skull Takes. Very interesting here. This is hilarious. Per your discussion on how to get screenshots from old tech, this came across my feed, so I thought I would share. A device that would take screenshots back in 1998. Wow. So I'm sure, like, actually the video glitch people probably have a pretty good idea of how to get an old computer plugged in with all those visual synths, so to speak, you know, and how to get a good, you know, screenshot, so to speak. We also have Ed Woods on that, so thanks for posting that. Hilarious how huge that is. Here we go. The intro art by Momo is made to look like Commodore 64, and they use Godot game engine to create the games as well as the post-processing Commodore 64 look. So Ed Woods with some conviction here on how this is made. I'm bookmarking that. I almost want, maybe next episode, we'll see what this is. Just do a little more surfing the web here. Neural Divine, thank you for letting me know, Ed. Super interesting. I will take a look for sure. Neural Divine, hey Adrian, nice show. I mean, it's crucial. This is huge. You know, is that what Hermipe is using? You know. Hey, Adrian, very nice show. Thank you very much for sharing my work. I'm glad you like it. I invite you to take a look at the rest of the collection. I think you might find interesting. So I can't remember. I think, was that a Comparts, Rare a Comparts show, I think? So I may have seen it. Again, it's sort of like a waterfall over here. I put my hand out and whatever kind of passes through my feed. I do a little research, but it's there's too much. But feel free to post in the community. I do check it before every show. Okay, so if you want to get something on my radar, you can help me out, Neural. Jan Lucas Magone, it's in the mind. Thank you for the comment. And DJ Kiro, thank you. And love the Scamra comment from Kennick Zapata and Martin Bruce. Thank you once again. So this is interesting. Wait till you see this. Digital experiences at the National Gallery, so artdaily.com. And here is the article. It's basically a press release that they put on this very old website on the web. The National Gallery unveiled a wealth of new digital experiences created and enhanced to celebrate the gallery's bicentenary. 200 paintings for 200 years, National Gallery Imaginarium, and a new iteration of the Keeper of Paintings. So 200 paintings for 200 years. Here is the announcement on the National Gallery website. Digital experiences at the National Gallery, a glimpse at the future. And here, again, we see 200 paintings for 200 years, which is where I want to focus here. And here are all the artists. This is cool. Just conceptually, this starts to go very much into territory that I love on the related images and the composite series that I do. This, to me, is just a wonderful area to mine. So let me show you what is fascinating me here. So again, we go back to, say, Raphael, and what they do here is you can select an image, and here's like the X radiograph of NG27. Unfortunately, they don't want you to download them. Maybe we'll see that on a separate page here. Let me make sure we have this right. So here we see different iterations. Like I'm kind of all over this. You know, a cool variation here of the image. This looks like X-ray fluorescence map. So this is just fodder I love to explore here. As you see, this looks like, what is this? Diagrammatic reconstruction of the original background, which ends up getting painted over, interestingly. So very interesting, like digital, research here. There is the painting, just incredible, actually. And I brought up a couple others. This was cool. This is a Hieronymus Bosch. Christ Mocked, I believe. So here's the original. And as you see, and you can just go through all of this kind of like, I love this stuff. It kind of brings us back to Jeff Koons painting the cracks, right? It's interesting, and here's the eye. Again, we're back to the mediation. Because in a sense, the original image is now being mediated through 500-year-old oil paint that is cracked. And you could argue, as some have with, say, Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, that this is the best way, this makes it better. Like, that was controversial when they cleaned the Sistine Chapel. I think it was in the 90s, late 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And it looked like, they were like, this looks like a Disney cartoon. We've learned to say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, and it actually looks pretty darn good. But it's quite interesting also, the effects of time, and even these different processes which bring about these very interesting color situations, whether it's black and white. Sometimes you'll get, look at all of this mana, so to speak. So this is just really rich iconography here. I thought this was just like a masterpiece in itself. This is, who is this again? Let me reload this. This is, I know the name, I know the artist here, and look at all this. This is that great medieval artist who has work right in the San Domenico altarpiece, but this is Fra Angelico, of course. This is Fra Angelico. If you want a spectacular experience, go to the Louvre, and you'll see it in one of the first painting rooms. What is it, the Coronation of the Virgin? So again, you go here, select image, and here you go. And you just scroll through all of this stuff. So this just came out, just released. They don't want you to download, as you see here. Download unavailable. I thought I hit the jackpot here when I saw the download button. Anyway, let's continue. So just rad, interesting work online. Not in the museum, but that's an online experience. So I just spent time reviewing articles in 2020 to 2022 discussing the rise of art NFTs. Many of the articles said things that I largely still believe are relevant: democratization of the art world, provenance, etc. But it was all tinged with a sheen of new paradigm now lost. And it's quite interesting because one of the first things I'll hear from people when I say, oh yeah, I don't say NFTs. Because, it just came up actually last Friday. I was at a art opening here in Berlin, cool art opening, and I met someone new, and they're like, oh, you mean NFTs? And I'm like, no, I don't like, to call it NFTs. They're like, yeah, because when I think NFTs, I think Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I was like, that is exactly why I don't like the word NFTs. It's just an association thing, and then people think I have basically terrible taste in art. So that's why I call it digital art on the blockchain. I mean, because otherwise it's just like you say NFTs, they think Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then like I don't want to be associated with that. Nothing against it. Forever. I think. And Josh Sobel, big shout out to Josh Sobel. Who I think does it despite. Keeps the Bored Ape Yacht Club despite knowing there's going to be criticism, and keeps it anyway. So cheers to Josh for his conviction there. So anyways, kind of an interesting thing, because I do agree with this. In a sense, it's all there, but it's just, and this is the thing, and this is kind of the problem. I'm kind of back to the Taschen book. Again, it's just kind of reinforcing this guilt by association of sorts of, because the Bored Ape Yacht Club is there. And I'm not just talking about the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'm talking about all sorts of things which I just have, not that much interest in it, which is whatever. That's my own personal view. And so it's interesting out here, especially on Tezos, but other places too, how we're using this technology But it is like, again, I call it an international visual arts underground. Like, it's not really, look at how small this channel is. I just passed 2,000 subscribers. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's not huge. So anyways, all very interesting. Let's continue. Jedi Wolf, since we're at 35 minutes. This is actually a very important comment, which speaks exactly to what we're talking about here. What OpenSea needs to understand is it's not just a marketplace. It's a vast art catalog that has been built since the early days. We consume art via OpenSea, which is its significant advantage. Focusing version 2 on trading and financial aspects is not the way. It's so funny, isn't it? I mean, I'm kind of back to how many genuine use cases do we have for blockchain technology where you need the blockchain in order to, and there's an organic demand for that technology. It has maintained itself with art on the blockchain. And the only other thing you could argue is money transfer, but I can still do that through a bank at the end of the day, or through Western Union, pay fees through the wazoo. But nevertheless, we need crypto. Put it this way, crypto is the most credible way of buying and selling digital objects. And it's like, I want to say they never learn. They never learn. And it's just like this constant undermining of the art and not understanding that actually the art is the value, so to speak. And the fact that people want to buy and sell it shows that the art actually has value. And here it's like, oh, we're going to focus on the pump and dump is all I see here. So, everybody's sick of this, I would argue. Even Jedi Wolf here, so I thought a pertinent comment from Jedi Wolf. Exchange art, and we're kind of seeing, again, like, exchange art. So this is on Solana. Let's bring creativity and talent to the forefront of Solana once again. Like, what happened? They had exchange.art, then they released their token, which was an airdrop of $4 for me, after just organically buying and selling art on their blockchain. And then it just kind of got ignored after the coin died. So clearly that was the main impetus here, and nothing wrong with wanting to make money, but now it's like, are you an artist? Do you want $2,000 US? Well, we have an opportunity for you. So it's just, you don't need to do this. All you have to do is have someone that cares about the art running your homepage and your social media. That could be one person. It's like that's like $60,000 a year job. That's all you need to do. And that do it consistently, and for them to have a kind of a clue as to what to put on the homepage and have a clue about the community and to pay attention. Anyways, we are excited to announce a juried art contest in collaboration. There's nothing decentralized about a juried art contest. It's like, why don't you just do Super Rare's gated community then? Like, it's just endless here. It's not hard. Just make it about the art, not about your juried art thing, not about the $2,000 US, and just make it about the art. It's not hard, So anyways, forgive me. And here, this was kind of funny. So Tezos, something big is coming. A new wave of Tezos community leaders, creators, and contributors. Are you ready to shape the future? Of course, I follow Yuri, by the way. That's a glitch on X when you open a whole bunch of tabs. So the big question here is, they have a community. So the question is, are they going to announce the people who have been working here in this community for the past several years, especially in a bear market? Or are they going to try and force a whole bunch of new people who all of a sudden were actually supposed to be important in the eyes of the Tezos blockchain? So something big is coming. Let's see. So what will happen to the old wave? So this is the question, is this the old wave that they're actually going to be celebrating, or are they just going to... So let's see. I mean, Tezos, I don't know what's going on over there. They do seem to, at least they gave some money to Object, right? So I guess that's a step in the right direction. No hygiene. So this artist here, this very, difficult artist, I would say. Look at this, 171,000 views, maybe not so difficult. I am an angel, but these angels, 392,000 views on Instagram, this one post. I mean, that's amazing. I think, did they post? Yeah, and they posted to it. Look, 172,000 views, 1,500 retweets. Here it is. So just hilarious. So big shout out to No Hygiene. Great work. Gregorio Zanardi, 50%. Because you know the beauty about social media and that kind of situation? No Hygiene, if they, like, how big is No Hygiene's audience getting? 7,000 followers. And, like, supportive followers. If you, like, if the further No Hygiene goes, the more sovereignty. In a sense, it's very important to be, you know, again, put it this way, back to the Tezos thing. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that they try and bring in a whole bunch of new people and then forget the old people, as, you know, Yuri is kind of suggesting could happen. This is why you diversify. This is why you're multi-chain. Because if Tezos starts saying, oh, okay, you know, we don't care about the old community, for the sake of argument, maybe they're out to celebrate them. Who knows? You have to keep an open mind. But in the case that, let's say they are, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like, diversify, be multi-chain. And then then what can people do to you? And it's kind of like, you know, focus on your social media and not just one social media. You have to diversify there too, right? So multi-platform. Put work on Bitcoin, put work on Ethereum, put work on Solana, put work on Tezos, is how I see it. Gregorio Zanardi, these paintings are looking really fine, actually. Nice work in progress shot. And look at even just all of the movement here. Looks like Gregorio is working pretty hard. 50% there. Looking great. Also, here's Rinnyfish. And thank you for visiting the Bugs today. The Bugs have met their Decora friend. And so here is Rinnyfish I think it's Rinnyfish, in Rinnyfish clothing. Hilariously. So, and here Rinnyfish works on the TVs. So it is Rinnyfish's world over here. And here maybe a friend also in Rinnyfish garb. So hilarious. I don't think that's AI. Here's Mirakit. So this is quite cool. I wish we could make it bigger. Maybe I can. Let's try even bigger. Kind of refuses to go much bigger than this. Let's see. So as you see, I think this is textile. I'm not positive though. But you see how interesting that looks. So let's see what Mirakit, a new embroidery. So kind of looks like Mirakit's work done with embroidery. I think it could be another artist. I'm not sure if this is someone else. Anyways, very interesting. As we move into the works, here is a new Martin Bruce work, Duck Rest. Duck Hey, so continuing to release. I don't think we saw this one. Kind of a Tron-like landscape here, kind of a more lower resolution style. 350 Tezos, raising the price. Good-looking work here. That is, I mean, Tezos is falling in price, so maybe it makes sense. Edmarola, Demon number 5. We got 4 more demons here. And just more gorgeous work here. The frames. And I love the non-symmetrical frames, by the way, because they still work, interestingly. And then these very fun, what look like improvisations here. I mean, truly like a pixel art painter. Very painterly and, you know, applying different approaches here. And all of this experimentation now, you know what this almost looks like a Shakespearean play. You can almost do like Hamlet, done by Ed Marola. Have a gallery. Maybe I'll talk to Ed about that. Do you want to do Hamlet? I like to keep things a secret here, but that would be awesome. Demon number 7. This is also cool. Look at that background. Look at it all. No frame, interestingly. Maybe it got too big. Who knows? And also this one going to Deggy D, Demon number 8. And just kind of a splotchy. Again, it looks like a modern art museum here. With all of these just awesome effects here and this gorgeous frame. Just inspiring work here. And again, just another day at the office out here. Let's continue. Here's Kanik Zapata. with another, I think, collector work, and again, playing this time again with what looks like screens and windows on screens, so to speak. Look at these textures. Just awesome. Again, stable diffusion and the cellular automata using Python, animated by Python script, which is super interesting. So offers coming in 510. 5 Tezos, 10 cents. And I think this is not minted yet. But again, you see this gorgeous digital textures here. And just around here, I mean, what a combination of stable diffusion and the cellular automata and the Python. Here's Yuri J. I think this is a work in progress, not sure, but kind of looking like a portrait here by Yuri J. Always interesting. And here is Cider, who of course I follow. And here also kind of variations here on a kind of portrait of sorts. So interesting, isn't it? Of course, I do follow Cider. Here is Uxine, and gorgeous work here. And what does it say actually? First of all, pixels. And so it looks like tracing out. It looks like taking work that has been processed with a certain effect and then tracing that out with a digital brush, so to speak. It seems to be what's going on. Interesting negative space here, too. Adds a lot to the work, actually. Interesting piece. Nov 1914, bouquet of sunflowers. So a couple of flower works here. Gorgeous, actually. Quite complex, this work. Not huge. Edition of 10, selling out. So doing quite well here. And 3 pots of a tulip, also by Nov 1914. And again, this beautiful kind of, I want to call it like an improvisation. It kind of looks like it's almost being done like freestyle, with the work like a still life, so to speak. The, signature little lines here, nice and small. Again, very cool. Maybe it's after Monet. De Monet, by me. 3 pots of tulips. What about the other one? After Monet. So they're okay. I think my grandma actually had that on her wall. Shout out to grandma out in the ether. Nana. E-cigarettes. This by Dan Control. Edition of 1 for 500 Tezos. So a beautiful digital pop artwork. Modern imagery. We have the e-cigarettes, and so that is 500 Tezos. And here are the batteries. So these both coming out, so almost like a diptych of sorts. And as you see here, huge work. And then you see the batteries, also 500 Tezos. The Myth, The Time Is Over. So interesting kind of narrative work by The Myth, kind of interesting figure here, large hands. There is the Myth mask. Interesting kind of, almost like a painterly, almost like a little bit more texture here. So using, one assumes, Procreate on this one. And so that is a 1 of 1. Still available, unlisted. Here is Gabby Walter, Well-Known Strangers. So old OG of the Tezos blockchain. You'll remember their work maybe if you've been around as using the Mickey Mouse. Here's a rat. And the crash test dummies here. And so cool work here. Kind of well-known strangers, kind of almost religious iconography. This is an edition of 10 for 5 Tezos. Great to see them back. Maybe they never disappeared. It's possible. Sumi Ryusi Fell Together. I thought this was kind of funny. So kind of a couple in crime here. And the man wearing, I guess that's a balaclava, not sure. And for their mugshot. Interesting piece, edition of 15 for 5 Tezos, 3 gone. This is pretty cool too. This is Recollapse, the Enigmatic Pianist. And here, I thought this was great. I love the color scheme actually, which kind of evokes piano, kind of the ivory keys and the black keys. Nice piece here, and kind of like a painted GIF, and almost like I guess that's almost referencing how it was made, perhaps. Repeated over here. Kind of interesting textures, but it looks all digital. So simulated textures, so to speak. And very cool work here by Recollapse. This is an edition of 1 at auction for 30 Tezos. So pretty reasonable price there. Here is Sui Soichi versus From a Burned Letter. Let's see if we can get this full size here, and maybe I'll make it even larger if possible. This might not be the full size. Let me see. View original media. Here we go. At the risk of crashing everything. But now we can see Sui Soichi's work properly. There we go. Kind of interesting, almost like Ed Woods was mentioning. See, it's almost like the simulated screen with the vertical lines. So very interesting pixel art. Kind of intense work by Sui Soichi. Love that star-like background in the city. Everything about it. Just a very interesting original work. This is on Manifold, and it is an open edition for 0.05 ETH. Not sure how long that'll stay open. Here is Cap'n. This is on Rodeo. El Glitch Hat. This is Cowboy number 25 here, and perfectly fitting the screen here. And so cool kind of colors here. Nice kind of simple work of a cowboy hat. And here's Cowboy number 26, also on Rodeo, 100 mints here. And here is the full size. So kind of mystical figure. There's the cowboy looking off, the two suns, almost like another planet. And this is also Cap'n going out. Kind of a wild one here. Again, kind of evoking old video game imagery. And beautiful sun here too. Here is Ed Woods, Panic at the Disco. This is great, isn't it? Love the color. There's something Ed Woods is just really good at. There's a composition thing. It just all kind of works. It all looks great. Edition of 1. This is a part of Accomparts. Maybe that's the show. 75 Tezos. We only have 9 minutes here and a lot of works to go through. PP Universal. Interesting piece from PP. Here, as you see, kind of almost different variations of the legs. Not sure what that says. Throwing some with Loco Playa. Not sure what that means. Greg Nikshu Mika, best flower paintings. Kind of looks like a reference to Monet, and sure it is. And here, or Van Gogh. Monet, Van Gogh, Hiroshige. So maybe putting a lot of, not sure exactly what's going on here. You could do AI artworks. Maybe that's what's going on, being given the Excel treatment. Not exactly sure. Best flower paintings. iPhone photos, museum heist, Excel, conditional formatting. So all sorts of magic going on here. Edition of 4, that was on February 23rd. So that came out a month ago. This is interesting as ever from Element Lee Interface. So again, often making work on the phone. I assume that's what's going on here. Quite a detailed work here. So continues to be super interesting from Element Lee. Here is Elna Frederick's Sunroom and playing with cats. And again, that illusion of things, of cats moving or of movement and signature work. This is also on Verse with a starting bid of $479. Here is Santiago, or Time, with a new work on Super Rare. I brought up the Twitter version because it'd be smaller file size, but new cool work, new cool abstract on Super Rare. Melt about the culture. Here is Two Handzilla, One Imagines. Let us see if we can reload this. And let's see, it shows up. Okay, excellent. So Two Handzilla. So a new collage here. This is on Rodeo, finished on March 18th, 2025. Man Crep's Power. So again, combining what looks like from a picture book or some sort of illustration with photography or painting. Kind of old school collage work. And look, quite a large piece, actually. Beautiful textures here. You see the print. And then here, contrasting with the illustration, here's Mirai Mizui, Skyscrapers. Nice response here. So kind of I guess I was going to say an animated abstract, but maybe playing with buildings. Here's another one, Predation. So almost got maybe it's a Japanese artist, kind of has a Japanese flavor. Animation director, CEO of Mirai Film. Interesting. 17,000 views. Here is Seba Sestero, the 7 p.m. walk. As we speed up here, And almost like Walking on Stilts, edition of 1. This is part of Rare Accompart series, 80 Tezos. And here is another one, A Brief Pause. I'm not sure if we looked at these ones, maybe on Instagram. Again, playing with the long legs. Here's Louis Osborne, A Work in Progress. You can just wait for the faces to be smiling and unsmiling. Very cool concept for Louis Osborne's work. Axstone GM. So I'm not sure if this is new, but I haven't seen this one before. Cool looking work from Axstone. Cool kind of structure to the work. Dingo Junction. Jordy Gandul. So kind of a classic on Tezos, often playing with this kind of 45-degree looking down video game angle of a city. Very consistent. Edition of 22 for 8 Tezos. Here is Ashen, who I thought... so Ashen now. What I never said, Santiago Ruao. Exactly. Drawing by... So playing with what looks like asemic writing, I think is how you say it. We haven't talked about that for a while. And again, kind of like a made-up visual alphabet. Perhaps. Here is Burka Byram, Similar Souls, 30 minted on Rodeo. And sorry, I thought I had that larger. Out of Turkey. So cool work there. Here is LibroBlock. And we're going to have to speed through here. And forgive the internet, Libro. Posted in the community, by the way. Cool music. Play just a little bit here. So, cool work there. Collect for 2.4 Tez, edition of 10. Here is Yura Yakon, stream number 25. And that is an edition of 7. Very cool, kind of pixelated work there. Perchance, Gimp, and Photomosh. Here is Lena Eckert on Transient Labs. And this is like a special format here, ERC 1155 Transient Labs TL. I hope it plays. Let's see. Let's see if it plays. Okay, maybe go back to our regular internet. We are running out of time here. I might have to bring this back. Here we go. So the original internet is now working. So new work by Lena Eckart on Transient Labs, interestingly. So transient.xyz, here is MCHX with a cool gradient work, and we have another one. This is Ranixdeer, almost looking like the sky here, also with gradients. Cool combination of abstract and representational. Here's Rick Ostenbrook with a gradient here. And another work by Rick Ostenbrook, cool, kind of almost 3D abstract. Here is Max Strecker. Interesting to see them back here. Has a lot of work, very interesting work on Object, on Tezos. So from back in like 2021, I think. So a few works posted here on X. And here's Acid Boy with a pretty rad artwork. As usual, getting a nice response there. And here's Renki. And this is on Instagram. So a new animated abstract here. And continuing on, here is Salawaki with the Salawaki character, beautifully colored here, watching a trout go through the washing machine. Very cool. As an edition of 24, here is Little Cakes with a few works here. And I believe it's kind of like a triptych. And we'll let this play. So cool, nice short works here by Little Cake, which we need since we only have a minute left. Will I break the hour? So cool works by Little Cakes, and here is Eitzo. Mit Duwat. I think I might have to break the hour. We have 80 seconds here. So cool work by Eitzo, edition of 5. And here is Marcel Munciano, Underground. Marcel's Underground. This is on Object. And this went for 20 Tezos, kind of has a bit of a stable diffusion look to it. And here is Machine, breaking secret documents from the JFK files release. So going topical and pretty wild work here. I don't know if this is AI or what this is, but pretty wild work here. Putting it on Zora, interestingly, so earning $72 on that so far. It's sort of like if this one doesn't take off, this could send pretty hard. If this one doesn't take off on Zora, I'm not sure what will. This kind of has like meme written all over it. Pete Ritchie, Grand Construct. Cool AI artwork here from Pete Ritchie. Continues to be super interesting there. Here is Clown Vamp. With 3 works from the Junk Machine. So here combining advertising, kind of simulated advertising. Here's another one. These are open editions for 30 Tezos each by Clown Vamp. And a pioneer of some AI artwork, AI on the blockchain, as you see here. And here is Ilya Moved, minus 4.5. So I think this is AI as well, doing textures. And as we go into, we're going to go a couple of minutes over here. Kayla Mattis, some process shots with Charlie James Gallery. So there's the cat, love it. So you see the work in action here, and I think you look at that also, by the way, and you also see, I think we're going to see a projector. Interesting. You see the drawing? It's like it's traced. So I think we see the process here. You see this? It's traced here to the size that Kayla Mattis wants. Then she puts it underneath the weaving. You see the drawing underneath here? And that's how she does it. Very interesting, isn't it? I couldn't rush through that. Here's Arno Beck, part of Spark Art Fair in Vienna. Just a really cool artist. These are typewriter works. Big fan of Arno Beck's work. Actually met him once in Berlin here, and there's how Arno actually makes the work. Very beautiful typewriter works. Here is It's Not Gallery, Jennifer J. Lee. So we were looking at this artist with kind of like the heavy canvas here in the past. Love the subject matter. Very modern. Here, this is also interesting. Artist Riker, Problem Child Advisory. So again, kind of painting roughly the pixels here. Super interesting work there. This is Kristen Hillardy Gallery, Alessandro Keegan, with almost these kind of sci-fi, almost Max Ernst, somewhat inspired looking works. Pretty interesting. Are they abstracts? I'm not even sure. Kind of sci-fi looking artworks. Here's Octavia Art Gallery showing Luke Forsyth out of California. So just a ton of art out there right now that's super interesting. Jake Pliskin, Eggshells and Fireflies, Book of Poems. This is gorgeous too. Continuing to play with the race car drivers. Another wild one by Machine. Putting a face, hard juxtaposition. Putting a face onto a Cybertruck. Classic Cybershine, acrylic airbrush on canvas. Just wild work there. Milaya, sometimes it feels like this. Putting the Apple headphones. So just awesome work here. That was a digital painting, by the way, not a physical. Patricia Arquette, Lost Highway. Is that the... Maybe that's the title of this, wildly. There's John Buscema, Silver Surfer, some pixelation, Casper the Ghost. Maybe that's Patricia Arquette from The Lost Highway. Wild, exciting work. Ushiki Masanori. So here, kind of looking like some sort of fighter, as it says here. The fighters I draw are incredibly friendly. Beautiful, right? This is why I couldn't rush through the end. Just these beautiful looking works here. And that is your show, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Today is Wednesday, so I'll see you on Friday. Until then, take care.